over-supervising our kids is not good for them. It's causing failure to launch. It is increasing the suicide rate. Hello, welcome back to Single Mom on a Farm. Today I'm going to talk about free play for children. This is a topic that I am super passionate about. I've been so passionate about it that I haven't even known how to address it, and I'm afraid that I could talk for hours and hours and I would still forget what to say, so I just haven't really talked about it too much. I've been trying to show a lot of videos, the kids playing outside. That was kind of one of my main purposes of the channel, was to show what a childhood can look like, just playing outside a lot, not having a ton of supervision, a close family, those kinds of things. But anyway, I wanted to talk about it to encourage more parents to let their kids have more free play, and then that is a really good thing for them. I'm going to start out with a quote that I really like, and if you don't get anything else from this video, just remember this quote. Latest research shows play is the most important developmental booster of all. If it were a class, there would be waiting lists to get in. Isn't that powerful? I think I got this from 1000 Hours Outside podcast, and I wrote it down on a piece of scratch paper. So I can't for sure know where it came from, but I'm pretty sure it came from her podcast. And if you don't want to listen to me, listen to her podcast all the time. There's always ones on there about screens and playing outside, family time, music, books, exercise, some sports, but just a lot of talents and hobbies and doing things instead of screens. So I really love her podcast. They always make me feel like I am being a good parent and that I can be a good parent. They're very encouraging. And I highly recommend them, just when you're out walking or whatever. But I'm going to read that again. Latest research shows play is the most important developmental booster of all. If it were a class, there'd be waiting lists to get in. So why, if we know that play is the best thing for their development, do we overschedule our children and have so many adult-directed activities? School and sports and classes and church groups and everything always has an adult watching over them. We spend 4 times as much time supervising our kids than our parents did, back in the 80s when I was growing up. And so why? Why are we supervising our kids 4 times as much as they used to? I think people are mostly afraid of crime, right? But actually, crime is at the lowest it's been in 50 years. So crime has gone down since the 80s when I was growing up. The kidnapping rate has gone way down since I was growing up, and I was allowed to play outside and, walk around town and things like that. So the kidnapping rate is 1 in a million. So your child has a 1 in a million chance of getting kidnapped. So that is pretty low. You hear the media talk about it and you just think it's all over the place, but it's actually really low. And there's this funny quote, I hope I can remember it. If for some strange reason you wanted your child to be kidnapped, what would you have to do? You'd have to stick them outside, unsupervised, for 750,000 years. That's how long it would take for them to be statistically kidnapped. So it's kind of crazy that we don't let them play outside in our front yard for an hour unsupervised. So the kidnapping and crime and murder rates are going way down. So that's not a great reason to not let your kids have free play. And one other thing, you may hear a really large missing children rate, 400,000 kids go missing every year or something like that. I don't know the number, but almost all of those are not exactly missing. It could be a family can't find the 11-year-old at the beach and he went back to the beach house and took a nap. It could be a 17-year-old pregnant girl runs away for a couple of hours. It could be a divorced dad takes his kids out of state, when he's not supposed to. Those are all classified as missing children, but they aren't kidnapped by strangers. That's a very, very low rate, 1 in a million. The kidnapping and the murder and the crime rates have all gone down in the past 50 years. So why are we still afraid of putting our kids outside? Maybe we are fear of neighbors calling CPS. That's a very real fear that's happened to us before, but we got through it. Maybe you're afraid of them getting hurt. Maybe you're afraid of them looking like a bad mom. I think it's a huge thing, which is why we just kind of need to spread the word amongst these parents that it is so good to be outside. This is why I love the 1000 Hours Outside podcast, because she's starting a movement of let your kids play outside, play unsupervised if, they're not toddlers or anything like that. And stop judging other parents for not watching them every second on the playground or outside in their backyard. I think there's also a fear of kids getting hurt and looking bad at the doctor's office. I mean, not just that we don't want them to get hurt, at least this is for me. Like, I'm okay if my kids get scratched knees or a broken bone. That's just part of childhood and growing up. But I'm afraid of being scrutinized, like going to the doctor and then feeling like there's child abuse or something like that when it was just an incident in the backyard. And it's kind of funny that you take a kid to the doctor for sports injuries. This is what I've heard from my friends. I don't have experience, and it's like totally fine, like, oh, they got hurt in football, they got hurt in soccer, but these are things kids are supposed to be doing is these organized sports. But if a kid does happen to fall off the monkey bars in your backyard or off the trampoline, then you are like a really bad mom. You've got to have nets around your trampoline, and you've got to have monkey bars that are like this low to the ground and other ridiculous precautions in your yard, because otherwise you look like a bad mom if your child gets hurt at your house or in your yard, which just is not true at all. So we don't need to be judging people for their children getting hurt. I don't know. I just don't really like that it's okay to get hurt in organized sports, but it's not okay to get hurt at home, because it totally is. Those accidents are part of life, and our bodies are all just human bodies that are going to get hurt and grow old and have diseases and injuries and all kinds of things, but they can repair themselves. And injuries and stuff are actually a lot less for kids who are used to running around and playing. The rate of broken bones of like just falling out of your desk at school and walking downstairs and other little easy tasks are going up and reaching the height of it used to take like falling out of a tree to break a bone, because our kids' bones are not as strong. They're not eating healthy, and they're not using their muscles and their bones, like jumping a lot and spinning. Like jumping off something high really strengthens your bones. But I'll talk about that in another time, because I'm going off on tangents here. Another note I have here is that over supervising our kids is not good for them. It's causing failure to launch, which I'll also talk about in another video. It is increasing the suicide rate. That and screens, like just being on screens and having too much adult supervision over every activity, then that is causing a lot of depression and suicide rates. There's this thing called external locus of control. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but it's where someone else has control of your life, pretty much, like planning your day for you and everything. And when there is external locus of control, then that contributes to a lot of anxiety. So if you think about it, you don't know what you're going to do today and have a say in your life, then you'll be very anxious of what's going to happen. Am I going to be able to handle it? And that can lead to a lot of depression also. On the other hand, if you believe you're in charge of your life, then you'll have less anxiety. So I'd encourage you to look at your children's anxiety levels and see where they're at and see where you can give them more charge of their life. And probably take away screens also. That's up to you and your family, but decrease screen time. And one reason why kids love screens so much, besides they're like totally addicting, is because they feel like they have control over it. Like they can just be swiping and picking things, and that's like the only time that they have control over their life. But if you take those away and let them play outside or inside, if you're in an apartment or whatever, let them have so much free time to play and pick what they want to do. Pick their clothes, pick some of their food, things like that. If you can homeschool, then do that. If they are in school, then make sure they have several hours every day to have free play, where they're not doing chores, homework. They can actually just be creative and play. Also, when you have external locus of control, you're less likely to take responsibility for like your health and your finances, your education, your occupation, your community even. So it's really important to instill in children at a young age that they have control over their life and their future, so that they'll want to take care of their bodies and everything about their life. After all, like what we're trying to do as soon as we have children is to put ourselves out of a job, right? I think Michelle Obama said that. She's like, we get these children and they're not little things that we're supposed to control and just make sure that they're getting good grades and going to a good college and then getting a great job. Like there's more to life than that. We want them to be able to go off and live by themselves and live very happily. So what counts as play for children? It is an activity that is self-chosen and self-directed. So it's not sports. So if you think kids have a lot of free play time, like during school or after school, in sports or whatever, they probably don't, because school, they're not choosing to be there, and they're not choosing their day and their subjects and what order to do them, and activities, things like that. So they need a lot of free play time where they can choose the activity and then they can direct it themselves without parents stepping in all the time. Kids really need this for valuable skills for when they grow up. Free play teaches children how to make decisions. It teaches them how to create rules and abide by the rules, decide consequences, and learn how to follow through with them with their friends or siblings. It helps them learn how to solve problems. get along with others as equals rather than like obedient or rebellious subservience, like, when you're acting around adults, you feel like you're either obeying them or you're disobeying them. But when you're playing with a group of friends and siblings, then everyone is treated as equal. Outdoor play is so good for kids. They deliberately dose themselves with a moderate amount of fear and risk. So they might go down a slide that's just a little bit too steep and scary for them, or jump off a swing, or jump off something that might be too high for them. They might skateboard down a railing, little things like that, that they're just deliberately trying to do something a little bit more scarier and a little bit more riskier. And something I heard on a podcast a long time ago that's always stuck with me was that giving kids risks when they're young, like starting, as young as possible, like a baby, just letting them pick up a pine cone that might be a little bit prickly. And they realize, oh, I don't want to play with that. That's not soft as a ball. For one thing, they're just learning so much between the different textures and what you can do with a pine cone versus a ball. But anyway, starting really small, like those kinds of risks, to walking up and down the stairs by themselves, to jumping, bike riding, all those kinds of things. Let them do a lot of risks, jumping off things and trying to teach themselves flips on a trampoline. Because then when you don't, studies have shown that children who are not exposed to a lot amount of different risks and letting themselves learn about those different risks and explore new things when they're young, they will then do a lot more riskier things in later teenage years and young adulthood, like driving risky, which they're going to get a car crash. So, if they haven't learned how to like go off ramps on their bike and try things that are a little bit scary, once they get behind the wheel, you don't want them doing risky things then and, playing crazy driver. They are also more likely to start experimenting with smoking and drugs and premarital sex and things like that. So you want them to get the risky stuff out of their system while they're young and learn about their bodies, what they can do, how to take care of them, how to control their own fear, and and their limits of everything. And then when they're older, they won't do the stupid risky things that we don't want them to be doing. So that's really stuck with me and I really liked it. So it makes me a little bit less afraid when I see my kids doing some risky things, even a knife or something, like, oh, you could get cut. It's like, hey, getting cut is a lot better than getting in a car accident or trying drugs or anything like that when they're older. So encourage those risky behaviors in, the right proportions. If they feel like they're confident about climbing super high, then trust them because they know their own bodies and they are learning. And if they do get hurt, they will heal, especially with good nutrition and good exercise, then they should heal just fine. Another thought that I wrote down that I wanted to share with y'all is free play is nature's means of helping children discover what they love. It can't be taught verbally, only through experience, which they get through free play. So it's really important to get lots of free play time. So I have this book called Free to Learn I got from the library. It's by Peter Gray. And I love this guy. I love his whole theories of how much kids need like unsupervised time to go play. So whether it's outside or if you live in a really dangerous area, at least in your house, let them play Legos without you telling them, everything to do. Let kids play Monopoly even if they're not following the rules. Let them create their own rules. Just let them have some unstructured time and, away from adults. I mean, you can still be home or whatever, but like not jumping in every time they start to argue, every time something like that comes up. They will learn how to control themselves and get along. This is one of my theories. People are asking me all the time how my kids get along so well. And this is just one of my theories, is that they have so much free play time where they have to just play with each other. And so if they start fighting or whatever, they know, well, we can either work it out and get along or we have no one to play with. So they are just learn how to get along. I mean, they're with each other all the time. We do have lots of other friend stuff, whatever. But like in our house together, whether they're making dinner or wrapping presents for somebody's birthday, they fight over the tape. They'll fight over which present to wrap. And they realize, hey, it's just us. Like, let's just get along because we want the party to go on. We want to be able to give our sibling the presents. So just giving them a lot of unstructured time where I'm not telling them every single thing to do and interfering with all their games that they're making up, all the things that they're doing, even unloading the dishwasher or wrapping presents. Like, I'm not saying who does what part of it. I just realized they have to work it out together. Say, hey, 2 kids need to be unloading the dishwasher, 2 kids need to be vacuuming out the van. And they decide amongst themselves, I'll do the top, you do the bottom. We'll let the 2-year-old do the silverware, or I'll get the vacuum out. Can you find the extension cord to plug it in so we can vacuum the van? They have to work these things out if they want the job done quickly. And then they learn. Let them learn. So many times, it's like an hour later, I'm like, you still haven't finished? And they're like, well, this happened and we got distracted, or we started playing something else, or we were fighting and we couldn't get it done. And they realize, hey, that we can either get it along and get it done quickly or not. Okay, I'm going off on a tangent about how kids can get along, but it goes along with just not supervising your kids for everything. If it's not dangerous, just let them work it out, and to give them plenty of free playtime. Okay, I want to just read a few thoughts from this book that really stood out to me, but the whole book is so good. I really encourage you to get it and read it and then highlight things that you really like. Children are designed by nature to play and explore on their own, independently of adults. They need freedom in order to develop. Without it, they suffer. So it says the drive to play freely is a basic biological drive. And if you don't have free play, it's not going to kill you like not having food and water and air would, but it does kill the spirit and stunts mental growth. Free play is the means by which children learn to make friends, overcome their fears, solve their own problems, and generally take control of their own lives. It is also the primary means by which children practice and acquire the physical and intellectual skills that are essential for success in the culture in which they are growing. Nothing that we do, so no amount of toys we buy, or quality time, or special training we give our children can compensate for the freedom we take away. The things that children learn through their own initiatives in free play cannot be taught in other ways. So that's just so powerful. That it is essential for their development is they need free play. It's even more better than toys and maybe special quality time that we give them, which is also good, but they need a lot of free play also. Let me see if there was a whole bunch of other just really good stuff that I really liked. Like every page, he talks all about schools and how much they have everything scheduled off. They've taken recess. It used to be like 2 hours a day. When I was a kid, you had like the hour lunch and you had maybe half an hour in the morning recess and half an hour in the afternoon recess. And now it's down to 20 minutes, like 20 minutes a day for a recess. And you can't even do a lot of stuff. Some of I read a book one time that had like signs at playgrounds where it was just like, playing tag is you can only touch with 2 fingers. Like you can't actually tag people. I had so many rules, and then like all the playgrounds are just like kind of going away. They're not very big and scary and dangerous anymore. It was crazy. I got to find that rules picture because it was really funny. So he talks about that, that schools are thinking, hey, if we have 20 minutes for recess time, we should teach them how to play a game instead of letting them play by themselves. And that's just really, really sad because kids learn so much more learning from themselves than from other people. There was a study done about kids' happiness at the times that they're most happy. And it says the lowest levels of happiness by far occurred when children are at school, and the highest levels occurred when they're out of school and conversing or playing with friends. Time spent with parents fell in the middle of their unhappiness range. So that was right in the middle. So the most happiness kids got were when they were free playing with friends, just doing whatever they wanted. And then next came, time with parents, and then last was school. So like, why are we putting them in school when that's like the least happiest part of their day or their life? They are bored, unhappy, and anxious. Okay, so he talks a lot about school and ways that school could be a lot better, or you can be homeschooling. And I don't know, there's so much more. I'll probably share this in another video also, but I don't want this one to be too long. I'm going to be trying to make them a little bit shorter. So just for a little spark in your head, schedule some time today where your kids can just go play. Even if you need to start with it just like 30 minutes or 45 minutes while you're making dinner, say we're not doing electronics or turning on the TV or anything, y'all can just go play. And sometimes it takes a while. Actually, I heard that it takes like 42 minutes for kids to get into a game. So, if you only assign them 20 minutes, it's kind of like hard to decide, hey, let's have a no boys allowed club, and who's going to be the president, and who's going to do this, and where are we going to have it at, and let's clean out the doghouse and try to have it in there, whatever. It takes a long time to figure out a game. So you kind of need big chunks of time. But if you can't, or if your kids aren't used to it, just start with a small amount of time and just say you all have to play together for 20 or 30 minutes and increase it. And then sometimes I do have lists of things. We call it like the board list. If they're bored, things that they can do. And most of them are really imaginative. Instead of just saying you can play Legos or play this game or play cards or do a puzzle, but more like activities like playing library, playing store, playing town, where everybody has a different kind of store, and someone is the bank and someone is the car dealership with like toy cars. So you can kind of list those kinds of things. You could do a puppet show or a play or play doctor. I just kind of list a bunch of things so that my kids can go to them if they want. I haven't put it up in a long time. Maybe you can sit down with your kids and create a list. Say, what are all the things you can think of to do? And list all the crafts, all the activities, all the games that they can play, and outside games and hide and seek and everything. And they can put it on the wall, and if they need to look at it, that they can. One hack I have is kind of off topic, but sometimes when I feel like they're really bored, then I say, everybody go clean their rooms, or we'll just clean one room, like the playroom, or clean somebody's closet. And they always find all these cool things that they want to play with. So I'll get them started on the project, not even to intend to actually clean it out, but they'll find things, even if it's like an old ratty tie, and they're like, hey, we could cut this up for this. Or hey, they'll use it as a blindfold and like, hey, let's play this game. And they just kind of go off and play. I'm like, phew, they found something to do. So sometimes just asking them to clean, not with the intent of coming back to check to make sure it was clean, like as if grandparents were coming, but just for them to find stuff to do. Because my kids having a job, somehow they end up playing. You tell them to wash the car, and they're just like out there with their swimsuits on, spraying each other with the hose, and the car may or may not get clean. But hey, they went and had a good time, and they're learning. They're always learning. So let your kids have a lot of free playtime, because it is the best way to learn, and it's so good for them. The last question that Jenny Urich asks her guests on 1000 Hours Outside is, what was your favorite childhood memory? And almost all of them have been memories without adults in them. So they're like climbing peach trees and eating them, or making a fort, playing in the woods. One that I heard this week was that, I'm trying to remember what it was. They said that they found some railroad ties like in the woods, and they were sure it was part of the Underground Railroad. And so then they started playing the Underground Railroad, and they just like acted it out and had this whole elaborate game. I thought that is so fun. Every once in a while, a childhood memory is like fishing with your grandpa or something like that, which are also fantastic memories. But a lot of them, and most of them, are without adults. And so I want your children and mine to have similar experiences and childhood memories to look back on. Just free play, just time to be peaceful and explore and think and be creative and come up with their own ideas and just wonder about God and wonder about their life, instead of being so scheduled that they have no time to think and they have so much anxiety and depression. So I'll stop talking. You let your kids go have some free time. Try to take some free time for yourself also, because my favorite memories and when I have the least amount of anxiety also is just when I go outside and I don't have an agenda of like, we need to rake these leaves and do this and that. It's just when I go outside, kind of just looking for something to do, just like, oh, I'm going to start picking up sticks. And then that leads me into either building something or having a bonfire, or I clean out this shed and I do that project, or I just start playing, or I start making something from like Tilly's Mud Kitchen, or I blow off the leaves from it. It just kind of goes, and I just love that free play time where no one is telling me what to do. Nobody's watching me and saying, oh, you did that wrong, or that doesn't look good. So that's why I kind of love being in the country, because in the city, it was kind of hard. If I made a chicken coop, I know all my neighbors would see it and they would probably think it wasn't very good. So I love like just being out here without the constant eyes on me. So I can understand kids not needing constant eyes on them, where they have the freedom to make stupid decisions and realize it was stupid without someone telling them that it was, because everybody has a conscience and can know. So I enjoy my free play time if I allow myself to take it. So I'm telling myself, as well as you guys, to go take some free play time for yourself. Develop new hobbies and talents, or work on your old ones. Just play the piano and see where it takes you, or pick up an instrument, do a puzzle, do some handiwork or crocheting or something, paint, draw, get your camera out and go outside and take pictures of the fall leaves. That can really fill up your spirit. And then let your kids also just have some free playtime. Maybe you have to go to like a park or a wooded area, like a state park, and you can have some free playtime there. I often did that when I lived in the city. We had nature school, so you can look up how to do nature school. But it's pretty much just free play in the woods to get away from the city, and where you're not worried about cars and traffic and everything. And we could build little houses in some of the wooded areas. You could play in the creek, just run around, play tag games. We could sit and sketch, read books, draw, those kinds of things. So I hope this video helps everyone in your family to have less anxiety and depression, more free play. You'll learn a lot better. You'll feel better. We're able to take care of ourselves as well as others and our community better when we all have a little bit of free play time away from screens and the freedom to choose what we want to do with our time. Thanks so much for watching, and have a great day. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye-bye.